Okay. Then we have the kick mix. Of course, that's bust out to here just for volume control. Snares. These snares were already pretty much pre-mixed, so I can't really go over it too much. Only thing I really did was add a high pass filter, which allows just the highs to come out and it cuts off the lows. I cut it about like 200, depending on the sound of the snare, because it has 3 layers. This layer. Then you have this one. And that really just gave the kick more body. And then I have more of like the bottom sound of the snare. So this would be like the top, like little stick sound. The bottom, the rattle of it. And that's the body. So you put all those together and it gives it more of a realistic snare sound. Okay, one thing I did do to the snares is add this nice little plugin by Maserati. If you've never heard of Maserati, he's one of the he's a really big engineer, mix engineer for a lot of probably your favorite artists. Him and Waves made this plugin to kind of emulate what he does while he's in the studio mixing, and this is like his drum mix. So for his drum mix, for this one, it has thump, snap, treble, and of course the output and sensitivity. The sensitivity is basically telling you what the how much it's going to compress or affect the actual snare sound. So this is the snare sound we end up with if I didn't have the Maserati on. So it's lacking the thump and the snap that I really did want it to have. So put the Maserati on. Then throw on high pass to get rid of the real low that's in there. Pretty much the only thing I really did to them. The hi-hats and the cymbals, all I did really was just cut out any lows that might be in there using the filter. This is an SSL plugin. It's made to simulate like basically the G series SSL consoles that they had, and these are like the onboard EQs, compressors, and the gate right here. The only thing I did is cut off the lows, and I made it shine, made the cymbals seem like they had like more shine to them. The way of doing that is using the high frequency filter. I'll solo that out so you can actually hear, if you can hear the difference of it. So you can hear that one has, with the effect on, bypass it. So with and without it, that's more shine, that's not as much shine. Alright, not too much, just a little bit. It gives it just a little more quality. Okay, well the next thing probably be the instruments. The instruments, since that's really where a bulk of this track is at, is all up here. All of these right here, all these are gonna be the instruments that I have in the track. So let's just play back the instrumental, just the instruments. Okay, so there's a lot of different elements in here. the guitar strumming. Let me take that off. And the guitar was kind of mixed already in the MIDI before I actually brought it into the session. But the main thing is guitars have a lot of body in them. So in the mid frequency, that's where you're gonna have a lot of time putting it into the mix. And what I've noticed while listening to other mix engineers or other mixes with people, with producers that have guitars in their tracks, is that they'll also pan it left or right or something a little bit. That way it makes more space in the middle. So I have mine panned 14 to the right, and I put the Eddie Kramer plugin on. This plugin is really great because Eddie Kramer, he's worked with, I forget what artists he's worked with. He's worked with a lot of the old rock stars. So I thought this would be a good plugin to try out, just to try to get a little bit of that sound. And it's a really simple plugin. You just really mess with the couple of buttons that he has on here. There's no presets, so you pretty much have to go by ear and figure out what you like. Let's lift the plugin in there. So you can really hear like the brightness, and some of the body comes back into the guitar when I use that plugin. All right. We can get into the choirs and the strings because these were really heavy in the track, especially because it starts building up in the middle of the chorus. All right, and the main thing I did for these, I didn't do too much except for use the EQ. This is another SSO EQ. It's like a channel strip. Pretty much what I did was take all the choirs that were in low octave, like choirs, strings that were in low octave. Like that one. Anything that really had a low octave, I took out a little bit of the highs. That way, like usually around like where the human voice would be at, which would be about 1K, 500 to 1K. So 1,000, yeah, 1,000 kilohertz. So I brought it down a little bit there, and I brought up the body in the low strings. So this is just for the low octave strings. I brought up some of that body. I still filtered it out at like 200, 222, so that there wasn't any low rumble, unnecessary low end in there. For the high strings, I pretty much just did the exact opposite, whichever strings this is. But as you see, like the highs come up a little more. That way, it gives some more of the brightness to the vocals in either the choir, or some brightness to the strings. Actually, hearing the strings, like filtered, I guess you could say. I messed up on what I was gonna say there, but that's pretty much it. The only thing I did in the bus, of course, was a high pass. That way, there's no unnecessary low end. Pretty much going to do that with all your instruments, because a lot of your instruments don't need the low end that they have in there. Let's see. The piano was pre-mixed, so I didn't do too much except for compress and throw a little bit of EQ on there. I also ended up putting ozone, isotope ozone, just to get a wide spread on how the piano played like the low notes would play more to the left and the high notes would play more to the right, just like as if somebody was really playing a piano. It had, of course, the bass is going to have a lot of low end, and you don't want that to fight with your kicks and your snares. So, what I did, instead of using this compressor right here, instead of using the H comp compressor and sidechaining it, I went for using the API compressor, which is one I actually really like API products. I want to eventually buy the actual channel strips that they have. But I sidechained it, and for the bass line, I'm gonna solo out the bass line so that you can almost tell exactly where the kick is at. It's the meter, so jump back. So you can see it compress, and you can also hear it a little bit. But when it's in the mix, you don't hear it as much. You can hear the bass line dip back, dip out a little bit. That way the kick can punch through. That gets rid of the fight that the low end would have. I also, I pretty much just used the preset on this Jack Joseph Pew collection. This is just like a mid-frequency EQ. This plugin worked great. This was my first time actually using it. It put in like more harmonics into the bass line, where I wouldn't think of EQ, and that's pretty much where it did EQ, and it helped out a lot. So I'll let you hear what it sounds like with and without it. I'll take the compressor off too. Without it. So you can hear the difference in the body of the bass line, and then you throw it on. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I'll probably make a whole nother video about this section right here. This was my mastering chain for mastering the whole entire instrumental. So it took 4 different plugins, and this is just a frequency analyzer to figure out what frequencies really need to be evened out in order to master the track right. So that'll be all for y'all. Till next time, EMP.